Hey guys, my name is Graham Johnson. Welcome back to Tabletop Glory, and today we're going to be talking about why on earth, when we play roleplay games, do we not roleplay? And how you can encourage that at your table, because at the end of the day, whether you're playing as the dungeon master or the player, roleplay adds a lot to your game. But enough of that right now. Let's roll that intro and then we'll talk about it some more. So roleplay games for tabletop, whether it be fantasy, meaning high fantasy, or fantasy, meaning science fiction, or anything that's really a combination of those subjects, as well as many others, oftentimes, for some reason, despite the fact that they're called roleplay games, we as players oftentimes just seem to have this inclination or this inability to actually roleplay. For some reason, we just feel so awkward. And as a dungeon master who has run a lot of games for a lot of different age groups and many different types of people, although I am not necessarily an expert in how to get people to start role-playing, I definitely have a lot of experience in it. Alright, so whether you're a new dungeon master or an experienced dungeon master, one of the things to keep in mind if you want to start bringing roleplay into the table is your group a roleplay group, or do they have the ability to become a roleplay group? And that can be a bit difficult to figure out. The best way to figure that out is for you yourself as a dungeon master to continue to roleplay or to start to roleplay, and even when no one's roleplaying back with you, to just keep doing your characters and doing your voices. You are going to feel a bit goofy being the only person at the table who's doing that, but by doing that you're going to slowly start to encourage people to feel like that is normal, and eventually someone's going to do it. And when they do it, you really want to encourage that. You know, maybe lean in onto the table, look them straight in the face, maybe speak up and be a bit more louder, stay in character, keep doing the thing back and forth, let them know that they've been seen, and basically through role-playing back and engaging with them, you're allowing them to know that this is your reward, that yes, I want you to role-play, this is awesome, keep doing what you're doing, this is wonderful. And hopefully other players will see that, and that's going to allow them to also want to have that experience, to have this ability to just free form off of each other and to really play off of what each other is saying and actually start role playing. And it's okay if people don't want to do voices. If they role play in their own voice, let them role play in their own voice. As long as they're interacting in a way that their character would talk, or that they feel how their character would talk, and they're being relatively consistent, I'd say you're heading in the right direction. Another thing when it comes to roleplay is, for some reason, children have this innate ability to just roleplay with each other. They just can do it, and it's not goofy, it's not weird. Now, there's a certain point where as kids start to grow up, that it starts to become awkward. For some reason, we've taught ourselves that using our imagination as adults is just weird, but yet we love to play roleplay games where we're using our imagination. So if you've got a group where maybe someone's little brother, everyone kind of gets along, or their little sister, and everybody kind of, you know, we can all get along and we can all agree to play, bring them in, because honestly, that kid's probably going to be one of the first people to start role-playing, and if they're having a blast and having fun and making people laugh, other people are going to start doing it too. They're going to relax, they're going to realize that, yeah, we can just be ourselves here, this is okay, this is what I want, this is going to be awesome, and they'll just start to roleplay. I've noticed that when I have younger kids at the table, the adults at the table will start role-playing much faster than if I just have a full table of adults. I cannot stress this enough when it comes to a shy player. Whether they're just shy to roleplay or they're shy to interact at all, keep them engaged in the story. It's very important. Even if they're not role-playing and they're not actively trying to engage themselves, bring them into the story. And that's not to say to force them to do something that they don't want to do. That's simply to put themselves, or to put their character in a situation where they can't sit there and just say nothing. One of my favorite ways to do this is to have a street merchant walk up to one of those characters, or to even have, let's say, a small urchin child, you know, basically a homeless child, come up to them and ask for help. Set up a small quest where it's going to maybe take 15-20 minutes to be resolved, but the quest giver came to them specifically. It kind of puts them in the situation where they feel like they can't pawn it off onto someone else at the party. They may ask the party to help them, but now you've given them a reason to engage with the table. You're bringing them in and you're making them feel like they're a part of the story. I feel like a lot of times shy players tend to just sit back and listen and only really help out in combat because they feel like they're not part of the story. So find a way to bring them in. Don't force them in or shoehorn them into your main campaign story, but find a story that you can tell just for the day to bring them in. I found that after you do that 2 or 3 times, they realize they don't have much of a choice, and they either just give up and join in the fun with everyone else, or they just accept the fact that this is their role, and they actually start going and looking for those little side quests, which can earn the party a nice little boon or some extra gold or something like that. So there's really nothing wrong with it at the end of the day. Either way, you've taken a shy player that would have sat at the back of the table and said nothing, and you've brought them into the game and you've got them interested in the game, and now they're actively playing. Hey, I'm right here in the middle of the video to tell you about this week's sponsor. Yes, that's right, we are sponsored finally. Finally, I know, right? We are sponsored by the subscribe button. It's a really great free way for you guys to help the channel out if you just hit the subscribe button, or at the very least share us around so that other people can hit the subscribe button. It'd really mean the world to me if you guys did that, and it's a really great way to help boost the channel and to get us out there for everybody to see it. Thank you guys so much for watching. So we've spent some time talking about roleplay and why it's important, but what happens when you as a dungeon master are not only keeping track of all the characters you need to roleplay, but also are keeping track of the game? How do you just keep coming up with story ideas while your brain is so crowded full of all the other information you need to know? Number one, at the end of the day, there is the meme that, you know, is the dungeon master who's just like run the greatest campaign ever, and the only thing in his notes is sexy goblin. What does that even mean? None of us know. We just had this random idea, it never happened, and the campaign went off without a hitch. And then there are other dungeon masters who write out systematic notes, and the party goes off the rails, and all of it goes out the window. So how do I write my notes in a way that helps me? Number one, I have a roleplay notebook which is strictly characters. And then I have a notebook which is strictly campaign information, items the party needs to collect, items the party already has, things to be aware of that the party has, like magical items that you've given them so that you don't accidentally write a quest line that they can just walk through and you can actually make things difficult. But for roleplay purposes, your roleplay notes, it should be the name of the character, their parents and next of kin if it matters. If it doesn't matter, just put a note next to it, say doesn't matter or dead. Moving down, generalized purpose of how you role-played that character. Maybe you based them on someone you know in real life or a character from a video game or an anime. Write down the name of those characters or real people so that you have a frame of reference that when you come back to role-play them 4 weeks from now when the party came back here when you weren't expecting them to, or if you want to bring that character along for the ride because your party adopted them, or you think it'd be really cool to bring them in as an Easter egg later on in the campaign in a different town, you now have everything that you need to make sure that you've got the character correct. Because I'll tell you, from personal experience, there's been a few times where I've ended up with 6 NPCs with the exact same name, and 3 of them spoke identical to one another, and I didn't realize I had done it. And my players thought it was hysterical. So it does happen. You're just gonna have to stay organized. Now, some of you are gonna see this next tip as cheating because it involves using Google, but the reality is that there is so much information out there for Dungeons and Dragons, not only through official means but unofficial means, as evidence of the fact that you're watching my video right now, that there are plenty of ways to stay organized simply by running other people's ideas that they have floated out there specifically so that other people can run them. One of my favorite things is a D10,000 wild magic chart. It takes so much load off my shoulders for any time I want to run wild magic, and it's so much fun to the point that I now put wild magic zones in my world where you can just run into wild magic, because it doesn't happen often enough in the core game for me. And my D10,000 chart doesn't necessarily mean that someone's going to die, but hilarity always ensues. So how does this come into roleplay? Well, by taking the load off of your own shoulders, you kind of free up some space in your brain to kind of keep track of things and remember what characters sound like what and what city those NPCs are from if you forgot to write them down in your notes. Another really good one is a D100. You can find all kinds of D100 charts, but a D100 random encounter chart. One of my favorite random encounters that I really love putting in a game that always throws players for a loop: a dog with blue eyes walks up to you, looks you straight in the face, you feel a connection, and then the dog walks away. Now, I admit, your players are probably going to follow the dog, and if they do, the second the dog rounds a corner, it disappears. It's going to set them off on what will inevitably be a filler episode in your campaign and give you time to plan a few more things out, and that's okay. It also allows for a lot of role play between the party members of trying to figure out what on earth just happened, especially with one of the best ones that's ever happened to me. I haven't put this in a game yet, but I've experienced it. You find a doorway in the middle of the road. Just a vertical doorway, wooden door, nothing special. Both sides look like a standard door. And if someone opens it, it basically explodes into confetti. Nobody takes damage. There's a sound of party poppers and everything else, and almost like a little kids cheering, like at a birthday party or something. If you know the Halo Grunt birthday party Easter egg sound, it's basically that, and confetti goes everywhere. And nothing happens. That's just the encounter. Trying to remember to put that into your campaign without having just some random chart to flip through. I mean, let's be honest, you have more important things to worry about that's going on in the campaign than to remember to put something funny like that in. Which is why I really, really love putting as much information in charts as possible, because you will think of all kinds of really cool, funny things, or exciting, or awesome, or just downright badass things to put into your campaign, and you're not going to remember it come game night. So why not put it in a chart that you can roll for later? Who knows, you may have the same encounter multiple times over the course of an entire campaign, but it'll make for some pretty memorable moments. And like I said, it takes a lot of weight off your shoulders, a lot of information out of your head, and it allows you to focus on more important things like roleplay, which, yes, at the end of the day, in my personal opinion, roleplay is a pretty important part of D&D. Again, even if you're the only one doing it as the dungeon master, it really helps to set the scene and to put your players in the mood to play. In any case, I hope that today's video has been informative and helpful in some way. If you've got anything else that you want me to talk about, if you've got any ideas for future episodes like this, you go ahead and ask me down below in the comment section. I will be more than happy to either make a full video about it or make a video like this with a couple of different topics thrown together so that we can get those questions answered, or we can at least just talk about how I handle things. If you would handle a shy player differently, go ahead and also leave that in the comments below, because I'm always willing to learn new ways of doing things, and I'd really love to know your guys' opinions and get some feedback from you all. As in any case, thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I love all of the support that this channel's been shown. Thank you guys so much. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video. May your display case always be overfilled and your pile of shame never run empty. Until next time.